Kawasaki KLR650 is back after 2 years of being they told us that they weren't going to bring the KLR650 back. What the hell are they doing? Playing with our emotions. You know, the KLR650 though is back as a about the same. They finally, the big thing is really the fuel injection. Fuel injection is really important for 2021. I believe the KLR what is going to sell in 2021 or 2022. I forgot, but it's a very antiquated bike still. There's not much happening. I think they made some improvements. The biggest one is really the fuel injection, and they made the rear swing arm a little bit longer, so it's a lot more stable. I think 30 millimeter, so 30 millimeter, 30 centimeter, something kind of small and insignificant, but you know, everything improves it. And the biggest thing for KLR fans is that the doohickey has been fixed. It's some weird thing in the engine that guys do, and it's a cheap part, so, but it's the Achilles heel of the KLR650. Now the KLR650 I had, I believe it was a 99, and I liked it, but it was very bland and boring. But you know, at the time I just wanted something like kind of powerful to do wheelies, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna get this bike and I'm just gonna do wheelies. No, it's kind of, it's very weak. It's a very weak dual sport. Oh goddamn, very weak dual sport. So you're not going to be doing wheelies on that thing. If you want a powerful 650, you have to get an XR650R, and even the L is better than the KLR for off-road, but the KLR has always been a better road bike. But the problem is, now with this new KLR650 and the fuel injection and all of these things that they've had to do for emissions, the bike weighs in, I think, at 480 something for the adventure version. So apparently there's 3 versions. I guess there's the standard one, the ABS one, and then there's the adventure, because you know, you need to have adventure on all of these bikes, and then you have the traveler. Now the adventure, I believe it's the adventure, it comes with like these really cool crash guards in the front. You know, it's a all new design as far as looks, which is good, but there's nothing really significantly improved other than fuel injection. The suspension is about the same. I think they might have tweaked a few things here and there, but you know, the suspension on the KLR650 was pretty horrendous, and one of the problems it had is that I had to get like an oversized rotor in the front, because the braking, it would dive down so much. So apparently Kawasaki did fix that on this one. They even increased the rotor sizes, so now you're not going to have that dive that the KLR650 was known for. You push that front brake and like the front suspension just went whoop. So now that KLR is definitely a better road bike, and I believe a better off-road bike, but the problem is that it's a heavier bike. So at 480 pounds, you really have to wonder why anybody would get that over an older one, unless you really just want the new looks. And the new looks do look pretty cool, you know, especially the adventure version with the camo. That looks really kind of fantastic. You know, I do love the KLR's color schemes. They're unlike any other. You know, they have this orange thing and then camo and like this kind of like army green, and it just looks so cool. That's the cool thing about KLRs, is that they just look awesome, dirty and just neglected. It's the types of riders that also get KLRs are very interesting. The KLR650 appeals to people that they just want the most economical bike they can get, and Kawasaki did a great job in keeping the costs low for that bike. I believe it's still at I don't want to lose the space or shoot. I think it's still like $6,500 for the base model and $7,000 something for the Adventurer. And I don't know, I think it's going to be a very popular version because it puts it in a class of its own. I don't know of any other comparable bikes other than the XR650L. The XR650L, it is more of a dirt bike, and it doesn't have like the panniers that the KLR650 has. Oh my god, this dude, just get over. The XR is a better dirt bike, but the KLR is a better road bike and adventure bike and riding fire roads. The KLR also has a very large gas tank. I believe it's like 6.6, but because it's a single cylinder and now fuel injected, it's going to get quite a bit of good gas mileage, so you're going to get a lot of range on that bike. Yeah, I just wanted to make it past that light. But the KLR is not for everybody. You know, like if you want a cheap bike to ride around the world, the KLR really is probably one of the best arguments for a around the world bike. I'm gonna filter up to here. You know, one of the things I didn't like is that the KLR650, mine, the old one, was a little buzzy. And I remember that the top of the engine gasket bolts, they shredded off while I was riding. And it was the first 300-mile ride that I did. But I think I was riding that bike at like super high RPM, just kind of balls out. And that bike is not really known for that. It's kind of like a lazy engine. And it's a thumper, but it didn't feel like a thumper. It's just very, very like agricultural. And at the time, I think I was just like more into a little bit more powerful bikes. I forgot what I bought. Yeah, I think I sold that, and I bought a CR500. That's right, I bought a Honda CR500. It's the two-stroke, and I mean that thing was a beast. You know, probably not a good idea, but yeah, that thing, like I hit so many trees off in the woods. The KLR650 though, I think it's going to be a success, and I think the closest thing might be like the Yamaha Tenere 700, but you're talking about a very different price point with the Tenere 700. The Tenere 700, it is an absolute awesome bike, but you're talking about $10,000. So this is when, if you're going on an adventure, and let's say you have $20,000 in the bank, you might want to like keep some of that money, buy a KLR650, and then use the rest just for gas. And I think that's kind of like the way a lot of these KLR650 guys think about it, including me. But for me, I would buy it in the used market. So if I was to buy a bike in the used market now, and I was looking at the KLR650 and the new one and the old one, you can get the old one for what, $2,000, $3,000. So you're really like saving. Of course, the old one has got some problems, the doohickey and stuff. Huh. What are those guys doing? He's about to tow that guy. I think if I was to like get a used bike, KLR650, Tenere, or VStrom, I would still go with the VStrom. Look at that. That liquor store is open. Yeah, look at that. People have been unboarding stuff. That cashier has been boarded up for a long time, and now it's finally available. I still think that the VStrom 650 in the used marketplace is a better bike than the KLR650 and Yamaha Tenere. Sure, it's not as good as a dirt bike as those two, because you know the KLR650 has got the 21-inch front wheel, and that's massive. That's a massive thing for off-roading. But I don't think most people are really going to be using that sort of power or suspension and wheels. The best thing really is getting a nice bike that's very reliable and durable. And I think the VStrom is better than the KLR, but most of the time you don't even need to have something like the KLR. The KLR is actually a very decent dual sport, but not a good dirt bike. I've ridden it off-road. The suspension is very wobbly. So I think the first thing people are going to be doing is improving the suspension on the KLR. Yeah, I think in the used marketplace, I still would get a VStrom over the KLR650. Because, you know, the engine on the VStrom I think is a little bit nicer, having a V-twin. But the KLR650 for $6,000, I wonder what other bike can you get for $6,000? And in the used marketplace, you can get a Super Tenere for $6,000. But of course, that is a heavier bike, about 100 pounds heavier. So that might not be worth it. Yeah, in a world of massive, over-exaggerated, over-complex motorcycles, the KLR is kind of like a breath of fresh air. You know, we've all have done this, right? We've gotten these simple bikes when we first start out riding. We ride them and then we're like, oh, what's next? What's the biggest thing? Which one has got cruise control? And we all try it. And then eventually we're like, what the hell do I need all this garbage for? You know, there's no, there's upsides and downsides to every bike. And the KLR650, the new one, they increased the weight. So, you know, it was already a heavy bike. But it's not a behemoth like the Super Tenere or GS. You know, it's still sub 500 pounds. I think it's like 480 or something. So, and of course it's got large wheels, so it'll be a better dirt bike than a VStrom 650 or Versys or whatever. Really would like if Kawasaki would put a Versys engine on the KLR. I really think that's the direction most people are going with. But I also admire the balls that Kawasaki had to have to go like, nope, we're gonna stick what we've been doing for the last 30 years. We're gonna put this thumper in this bike and you're gonna like it. Eh, you know what, if you don't like it, don't buy it. I kind of like that too. I like the idea of you know, keeping things simple. But the downside is that usually the multi-cylinder engines are a little bit more reliable. And you know, I know that the KLR is reliable. Oh man, I'm like stripping this thing out. I might have to just remove this. The multi-cylinder stuff, I believe, is a little bit better for reliability. And I know that's something that I think a lot of guys would disagree with me. But I really think it's a little bit better. As a commuter, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you got pretty much everything that you need in a commuter. And now the Adventure package even has side bags and a top case, a branded side case and top case. And I believe the Traveler only has the top case. You know, you would assume that the Traveler would have both and the Adventure is just the top one, but Adventure is the new term. You know, it's kind of like the organic foods of motorcycles. So everybody's just rushing to put organic everywhere. Rushing to put Adventure on everything. You sell the sizzle, not the steak. You know what I'm saying? Kind of stuck here. The cops won't bother me.